Welcome to the Transforming Healthcare Coaching Podcast, where we're all about helping healthcare professionals like you create positive change at work, at home, and everywhere in between. Hi, everyone. This is March, which is Women's History Month. And so we're excited from Transforming Healthcare Coaching to have myself and Gillian on to talk about leadership and what it's like to be a woman leader in healthcare and some things we've explored along the way. And it's going to be a little bit different episode. Jillian's going to interview me mostly. So we're going to try to make the conversation flow and looking forward to chatting with you all about being a woman leader in healthcare. So turn it over to you, Gillian.
Yeah, thanks, Lily. As we know, gender has been a known factor and it influences how we experience the healthcare workplace, including things like promotion, advancement, satisfaction, and well-being. And I think we've both experienced all of this. So I'm curious, though, what are some of the baseline facts that people should know about regarding being a woman in medicine and healthcare in terms of your career advancement and well-being?
Yeah, so just last year, the American Association for Medical Colleges, AAMC, does an annual academic medicine survey. And believe it or not, since 2021, women now comprise the majority, meaning 51% and more of the applicants, the people entering medical school, and actually entering and completing training. And there are more women than ever as full-time faculty, and majority of them actually are under the age of 50. After the age of 50, that begins to decrease over time. And I think many people are aware of the fact that as you rise in rank, at least as a physician, there's less and less women at the most top levels, whether that be CEOs of hospitals and also department chairs and deans. So if you look back retroactively, back in 2013, it was only 16% of department chairs or deans of medical schools were women. And now it's 25 to 27% in 2023. So that's a win. Yeah, there are more women entering into the ranks of medicine. In the nursing side of thing, when we do literature reviews, looking at career satisfaction and well-being, there are 4 factors that affect women nurses and their career satisfaction. 4 factors that can really influence their careers are breaks in their career, if they take time off, either to pursue different things or to go part-time, taking care of little kids, and also workload, like the workload meaning what clinically they are expected to do that really affects their career outcomes or their well-being, and having some control over their work. So I know many of my nursing colleagues often choose a career pivot or a career diversification pathway because they're like, I can't just never have any control over what patients I'm going to be assigned or what projects I'm going to do. And so they begin to understand that maybe I need to do something more related to quality improvement or research or business administration or finances. They begin to diversify their career so they can get more control over the work leadership within the nursing world. Those are some of the things that I think we've seen from both the physician side and the nursing side.
Yeah, lots of good information there. And that's really good information to hear about the increases of women in these positions and moving into other leadership positions. I'm also curious, though, the challenges of being a woman healthcare provider do stem from society and culture. And these may or may not be likely to change. And when we coach women healthcare providers, and we look at the external and internal factors affecting their mindset, can you talk about some of the things that you have seen with your clients?
Yeah, I think it's hard at every level, and it exhibits itself differently depending on where you are in training. A lot of times, some people enter specialties that are majority male, and sometimes it feels like the people teaching you or the people advising you just don't understand. And I think what's amazing about the generations, I now see my trainees much more willing to speak up about things about racism, gender discrimination, much more so than I ever experienced. I think a lot of the internalization of societal norms is in my generation at least allowed us to try to figure out a way to blend in. But then when that figuring out a way to blend in, we actually internalize many of these messages. And so when I coach physicians who are a little bit on the older spectrum, older meaning anything in the I guess, 45 and up. I mean, so in the later part of their career, they realize they have to internally sort of deconstruct the things they actually now believe, as compared to the younger generation that actually don't necessarily have these inherently internalized. And so they question sort of the way they want to be treated and are much more vocal about speaking up about that and actually just not tolerating it, which is an interesting challenge that I think we have in the workplace, having so many generations represented, about trying to get clarity on what's appropriate and acceptable really does differ quite significantly. So I think that does come up, at least in the mindset shifts, to try to recognize, well, what do you accept from society, from your culture, from your upbringing, from your own nucleus, and what do you wanna play with? Like, as a when you with our clients, we were like, "Well, what do you wanna, like, try down differently?" You don't have to accept it, and if it doesn't work out with your experiment that you wanna change, whether it be with your working partner, with your boss, your direct supervisor, or even higher up in terms of what's defined as myths. A lot of times women don't choose jobs because they're afraid of what it could entail. Well, redefining, well, what does a woman leader look like? They may have never seen one before. They have no role model. They often have myths about, well, it's gonna entail sacrifice of some kind of time. You don't know that. I mean, so it's about debunking myths, I think, to some degree.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, and I also do some work in the business world. And I think these things are common to other areas as well. And people are definitely speaking up more, especially the younger generations, and they have a clearer idea, is what I see and hear, a clearer idea of what they don't want. And then they have to figure out how to try and find that and make it work for their circumstances.
I know I really actually appreciate people willingness to try to have a dialogue. I think it's hard though. It's hard to sometimes recognize that, oh, maybe I just have these preconceived notions. And it's sometimes also described as whining, right? Like it's or seen as complaining. And I think it's I don't know why we all see the glass as half full. No matter what generation you are, everyone's brain works the same way, which is looking for threats. And so whether you're older or younger, everyone talks about how easy it is to know what they don't want, like you said. And actually maybe it's because they tried it or maybe because they heard about it. And at the same time, the reality is it's hard to envision something you don't know. I think that's also a hard thing, and so the more people you can see role model or the more curiosity you have to go explore the world beyond your organization or beyond your group of people helps you see that, oh, there actually is a way. There's so much diversity out in the world. The more you get to see, the more you realize that you can also forge your own path.
Absolutely, and having different perspectives and different experiences just makes our awareness and our decision making possibly a bit easier. And healthcare, I think, is a bit different though. There's so much going on in healthcare. It's a very complex place to work. There's lots of challenges and lots of pressure. So I think we can still all ask ourselves these questions, but there's a lot more demands, I think, coming from all different directions.
Yeah, probably true, and I think there's also probably some lack of flexibility in some ways, and I think
Exactly.
that's the greatest downfall, I think, for healthcare, is the fact that they're really unwilling in certain organizations where this is just our policy, we won't do it. That just means there's going to be talent loss, and so it's only until organizations do smaller tests of change where maybe you do a pilot in one building and work with HR to figure out, like, how can we make this work as a pilot program to see innovation in the organizational culture, right? I think in the organizational psychologists and change managements would have a field day with healthcare because there's certain parameters they're unwilling to change. Period. End of story. And like unit workflow or unit hierarchies is one of them oftentimes. And that often creates 90% of the stress, at least for some of the people I've talked with, because it's interesting how different groups and different places have different rules.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, because of the nature of the work, there's things that cannot be changed, and location it cannot be changed. And I think probably being more creative and being more innovative to find things that work for particularly people working in healthcare is definitely the way to go.
Yeah. Yeah. So true.
You know, I just wanted to take a quick second to say thank you. Seriously. It means a lot that you're here with us, diving into these real conversations about life and healthcare. If you're enjoying what you're hearing, we'd love to have you join our regular crew. Just hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening from. It really helps us keep these authentic conversations going. All right, where were we?
Coaching women in healthcare often entails discussions about finding balance between roles and identities, things like caregiving, parenting, partnership, and leadership. So, what themes and lessons have you found in your coaching practice?
Yeah, so most of my clients tend to have some kind of leadership role. They're either a program director of something or a division chief or a chair. And the challenge has really always, to some degree, foundationally, at the beginning, is to not lose themselves completely into the job. And how do they keep all the other parts of themselves strong? I think we all use the Energy Leadership Index, and we think about the wheel of life in the beginning of the assessment with our clients, and we want to make sure that we're a wheel that rolls very smoothly rather than be this strange octagonal thing that has bumps along the way when we look at our wheel of life. I think in the beginning, at least, most of the women leaders I coach recognize that I have to really pay really good attention to my health and my sleep and my mental well-being and my relationship with my partner, because if I do those foundations really well, then the rest is 1,000 times easier. And if you invest in the relationship with your partner, then sometimes the childcare part gets a little bit easier, or the protection to go work out, or the someone else will cover for you when you really do need to sleep. And so it's all of those things together. If you worry quite a bit in the beginning about that, then incrementally you just show up better as a leader, and all of those conversations or negotiations or creativity you need to give to it back to your team become a lot easier. So for the first 3 months, honestly, there's a lot of foundational just well-being work for really high performing leaders, because they also understand, also go over the fact, I mean, they are ultra athletes, although they lead a lot of people, and so
Right.
they actually have to take their own well-being so seriously, and those are the foundational. If your partnership is well with your partner, and you're sleeping well, and you're eating well, and you're exercising, and you're finding some way for your mental health, whatever it may be, if that 25% of your world is like amazing, then the rest of you become amazing.
Yeah, finding some kind of balance or some kind of way to integrate all of these roles is extremely important. What about overwhelm? I hear and see that a lot with clients. So, what are your thoughts on how to deal with overwhelm?
Yeah, so I think overwhelm comes from two different sources. One is sometimes letting other people's perceptions or anxieties override into your world, and then that you own it and you wanna fix it, and actually it's not yours to fix. Other people's concerns, other people's opinions, and those things are their locus of control, and then when we try to overstep it, we actually try to own everybody's problems. Some degree, you sort of have to let them find their solution on their own and their perspectives, and all you can do is support them and maybe point in a way, and then that's when leaders may want to think about, instead of fixing everything for everybody, is like suggesting and coaching people instead to find in your teams to find the solution themselves. It's that balancing the supporting, listening, and coaching, rather than just taking it all over and try to be the fixer, which is really common in healthcare because we overall like to fix people and fix things. So it's really common. The other thing that actually I think the cause of the overwhelm is just everything's amazing. And I'm guilty of this one. Everything is amazing, meaning you want to be a part of every piece of the awesome stuff, which is all in research, being all in teaching. You want to do it all. And so you're just so excited to do everything that you often over bite off more than you can chew. And then in the end, you can't really deliver what's most important. So I think for many leaders, they actually came through a clinical rank, meaning that they're rewarded for being really good clinicians. And so they want to still do a lot of clinical time, and they also feel they're not gonna be as connected to their team or to the organization if they're not being a clinician, and so they still try to do so much clinical work, plus they sort of have to maintain their salary, and so it becomes overwhelming because you have to do so much clinical time, plus do so much managerial work and administrative work and budget work that you're never taught and never given the grace period to learn on the job. And so I think that's when the other overwhelm is that you need to do. I always say life is one big time limited trial. So as a critical care physician, out there who know about all of these things will understand what I'm talking about. But it's like it's just for 3 months. How can I pare back just for 3 months clinically in this huge time of transition or a new project going underway? and see if there's ways where you can explain explicitly to your team that I need to pare back for 2 or 3 months just so we can get something else off the ground, and then once we get that pilot off the ground altogether, I'll come back, and so that it's not a forever going away from the bedside, and so 'cause then it becomes clear for both the team, for equity. So I think there's a lot of equity concerns whenever, a manager or a leader doesn't quote unquote. And so I think it's really just being a little more transparent about what you are doing and why some people have to do a little bit more in certain times and how to make it fair for everybody. So I think to me, those are the two main reasons why people end up getting overwhelmed. Either the try to take it on when it's not even yours to take on, or everything's awesome. And your core identity of being a clinician is you don't want to really get rid of, and then you try to take on too much.
And piggybacking onto what you were saying about not having to fix everything, but being more of a coach and being more of a support and letting people figure things out themselves. That, in my experience, it's like you can breathe a big sigh of relief because it feels much lighter to walk into work and not feel like you have to take everybody's problems on or be responsible for making sure they get fixed. So I think that's a really great point. And then your other one about everything's great, everything's wonderful, I'd love to do it all. Sometimes we have to say no. And I think women especially find it hard to say, okay, I cannot do that at this time. And I think sometimes when we add on, this is a no for me at this time. So you're not saying it's not a no, period. You're just saying at this time, my plate is full and I cannot take anything else on. But 3 months or 6 months down the road, I'd be happy to talk about it. I know with some of my clients, we've had to really talk about what you say no to.
Yeah, no, and I like that. And I like the saying no in that way because it's just like for me, it's like I'll say yes and only for this a period of time. Like, yes,
Mhm.
and I can only do it for 3 months. And then yours is the sort of the flip side, which is not right now, but I can consider it, I can reconsider it potentially in 3 months.
Mhm.
So both
Yeah,
are true and both are different ways of putting time limits on the consideration.
right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's always amazing, I think women don't really realize sometimes when they say no right now, it becomes a hell yes later on, meaning that they've had the time to mature or finish something else. And then it actually then becomes like, well, I actually completely switched gears to whatever that other position was. And I think the hard thing is that everybody's just trying to figure out the right timing and the right person to go with the job.
Yeah, makes perfect sense.
Hey, I'm loving where this conversation's going. And it actually reminds me, if any of this is hitting home for you, I just wanted to let you know about something pretty cool we've got going on. We've got this amazing team of 5 coaches who really get what it's like to be in healthcare. And they're available for one-on-one sessions if you want to dig deeper into your own journey. Plus, we've created this whole community called MedThrive. Think of it as your professional growth space with self-paced learning and monthly group coaching calls where we all support each other. Just putting that out there in case it speaks to you. You can check it out whenever you're ready. Now, let's get back to this great conversation.
I was just going to ask you, you do a lot of negotiations with high conflict or when different team members get upset for different reasons in different work environments. And a lot of times women are advised to ask and negotiate, but often don't feel comfortable. And so there's all kinds of training programs to actually get those skills for negotiation or to ask. But as a coach, I'm sure you also encounter this with your clients. I'm curious, like from both a consultant and a coach, what tips and strategies do you have for the negotiation piece for women in healthcare?
Yes, I think when it comes to negotiation, one of the biggest things is identifying what you really want. And sometimes what we think we want and once we really talk about it and figure out what the underlying reasons are, sometimes it's something different. So getting really clear on what you actually want to walk away from the table with is a really good first step. Working with a mentor or a coach can really help get that clarity. And sometimes things like role playing, what the scenario might be like, if it's a high stakes conversation, then that's another useful way to approach it. Sometimes women, especially, are afraid to ask for what they really want. So I think owning that and understanding that what you want is important and it's okay if it's not a perfect proposal at this time, but you've got to start somewhere and you've got to get into a conversation and you've got to be heard. Being clear, knowing what you want, and being able to deliver it in a manner where it's going to be understood.
Yeah. I think the greatest things that people want, I often hear about are things like flexibility with childcare and trying to figure out a work schedule when nobody else has that in general. And then I can also see that oftentimes people don't go into groups that are unwilling to even have the conversation. And
Yeah.
I think the other thing I always find is that, okay, they might not say yes to you right away, and also, as I've learned even in the coaching in the entrepreneurial world is, well, how do you make it so that you end not as a never, ever, ever no? It's always, well, maybe someday, what else might they be willing to consider?
And by asking, you may be planting a seed. You may be starting a conversation that actually leads to something innovative, something that works for other people as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It always is fascinating to me that the parental rights really came from both men and women generationally. And so I think the fact that our younger generation are willing to try to have a conversation means that just because you say no right now doesn't mean that it won't be a no forever. It will just
Right.
be you might find more friends. Like once you start talking about it, you start asking other colleagues, and next thing the entire group wants exactly what you have.
Yeah.
And then suddenly there is no other choice, but everyone has to have what you have, which is actually how I think many of the parental leave policies came about, where no matter what gender you are, at some point, whether it's adoption or natural childbirth, everybody has the right to spend some time with your brand new family and adjust because this is a big psychological adjustment.
No. Yeah. And something that feels like it's a threatening conversation to have or it's intimidating, if we can reframe it so that it's not like that. And again, working with a coach or a mentor can help with that. And sometimes these situations, it may feel like you're in a conversation where there is conflict. We do have healthy conflict, it's not all bad. And sometimes these differing of opinions and these opportunities to talk about things really do lead to a better result and lead to possibly a new program or a new initiative. So it's always worth having the conversation. Just how we approach it is very important.
Yeah, no, that's true, which is well rested and calm as possible. And not angry. I know a lot of people get very angry and upset when especially when they're told no at least once about
Mhm.
certain things, and then the question just becomes, well, how do you not let the emotions keep getting back into it? And how do you find a rationale? And how do you meet your boss halfway or help them be able to help you? Because sometimes I think it's that managing up portion of things in terms of how can I help you have a better life too, right?
Yeah.
Like if you would like this problem to go away, how can I help you make that problem go away?
Yeah. And obviously, going with solutions or potential solutions is always a really good way to go.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, including sometimes about crunching the numbers, so,
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah.
yeah. Well, this has been really fun chatting with you, Jillian. Do you have any other perspectives or advice that you'd want to share with the audience before we, sign off?
Yeah. So Lily and I are both coaches and working in, especially in healthcare. We see good results with our clients just by working on things that are important to them and help them move forward in their career. So if you are struggling with some things and would like to move the action forward, feel free to reach out and have a discovery call with one of us.
Awesome. Thanks, Jillian. And I would say for me to end this episode out in terms of women in leadership and Women's History Month, it's the fact that we stand on the shoulders of other giants, male or female. And the reality is everything you do moves the needle forward. You're a role model for somebody else. And the more we network and the more we share and the more that we lift all boats with the tide, the better it will become. So thank you for everyone who's been listening and sharing and supporting each other all along the way. And we'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening. If you found value in today's episode, please subscribe and share with a colleague who would benefit. Together, we can transform healthcare one person at a time. Find us anywhere you find your podcasts. Ready to take your healthcare leadership journey to the next level? Book a discovery call free at transforminghealthcarecoaching.com to explore our personalized coaching packages designed specifically for healthcare professionals like you.